Welcome back to our tutorial. My name is Filippo Martinoni, and in this tutorial I will show you what a streamable class is. So what is the advantage to define a class streamable? So we have the representation that we define them as streamable, and why? I mean, why we just didn't do a normal class? So streamable is a properties that afford our class, so the instance of our class, to be visualized at real time in the simulator. What I mean with that? I mean that if we do play, okay, we get the sim robot. Then let's use video tutorial. I can write, for example, VD. Please forgive me, in the previous tutorial I say DR, but this is the debug request, so it doesn't have nothing to do with the streamable. So VD, then we can write the ID of the class that we want to visualize. In our case, for the representation is representation, and then the name of the class that we want to represent. In our case is tutorial representation. We press enter, and you can see here for every robot it came under the data folder the class that we request. Now if we double click on it, we get this, and as you can see, we get on real time the value of this, in our case, foo. So as you hopefully remember, under the representation we have the foo function, and inside the provider, that should be here, we have the update function. When we say that you should take the attribute foo of the tutorial representation and update it every time. What we can also do is to write another number here. This sometimes works, sometimes not, because for example now I put a 0, and it should however increase the number. It should not stay stable at 0, but for example here it doesn't work. I'm not able to tell you why sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't work, unfortunately. For the boolean it works quite often, but for example if you want to try a new tactic and you want, let's say you have the robot in the position 0, 0, and you want to simulate that the robot is in the position 100, 100. If you go on the position of the robot and you change this value, for my experience it will not change the tactic as if it would be actually in 100, 100. But this is my personal experience. Now, what could also be interesting is to generate a class that is streamable, and then to call it, so to use it, to call it in the sim robot. So in order to do that, we go in the module, in the tutorial module, and we generate a new file. So new header file, and we call it tutorial parameters.h. Now we can go in the function, for example, this one, the bug. No, sorry. Where is the so let's take for example this one. Let's just implement a streamable class, so we can just paste it here. This we don't need it. We need to always include the auto streamable to change the name in tutorial parameters, and here we can give some value. These were a class of boolean that was done for the drawing, so that we can online select which drawing we want to see and which not. So let's say, for example, that we have a new value that is, for example, a flag. Remember that if you declare a streamable class, you can either declare it like that, or if you want some function inside, you can define it as we define it, not here, but under the representation, tutorial representation, like with this public. So maybe I can show you a better example. If we go, for example, under points field .h. Oh no, sorry, okay, this is a normal class. However, you can define it taking away this, put in here a public, double point, and now you have to take away these brackets, so you can use them anymore, and you have to use the comma. If you want to put here a function, you have to use before semicolon, and then the last. So if you define now function 1, function 2, function 3, you have to put here a semicolon, and here just a comma, and then it will work. Yeah. And remember that if you use this kind of definition, this is not mandatory, so we can also leave it like that, but you have to put the brackets around bool, because if you just write like that, it doesn't work. I lose quite a lot of time because of that, so please be careful and be aware on that. So now let's say that we have this function tutorial parameters, blah blah blah, there is a flag. This of course could be also an enumeration, or it could be other stuff. Now let's say that we want to use it in our provider. So we go here, we can include this file, so we should include we call it tutorial parameters, if I'm not wrong, or maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, what was the name? Tutorial parameters. Okay, sorry, I have a small blackout. I don't know why I got this problem. So if we go back to our file, yeah, of course I forgot the .h. That makes sense. And now we say, okay, we have an element that's name is tutorial parameters, and then we call it parameter, for example. Now we cannot see online these parameters, even if it is streamable. And why that? Because we have somehow to give to this parameter, so to this instance of this class, an ID, and say, okay, this parameter should be modifiable at runtime. As I say, I would not trust 100% that when you try to modify something it actually works, but this is my experience. How can we do that? We can use this macro that I also used here. So we go on the CPP file, in the function update, we write this modify, then we give an ID. Okay, in our case would be, I would always suggest to make as much structured as you can so that it's easy to remember. So the module is tutorial provider, double point, and then the name of the element in our case is tutorial parameters. And here we have to give the name of the instance that we actually want to call. In our case, the instance would be parameters. And now we want to give us also as output to see which value it takes. So we first remember that since we have more robot, and for every robot the function update is called at every iteration, you have to be careful that if you modify a parameter on one robot, it doesn't mean that this parameter is also modified for the other robot. So it's always better to put, since the order to which the stuff are print on the screen is not always the same, it's always better to let us know which robot has which value. So we want to get the value, in our case is parameters dot flag. Alright, we can run our sim robot. As you can see, as soon as I will start that, here we are going to get all this value, and it's all 1, so are all true. Why that? Because we initialize them as tutorial parameters. We initialize it as true. So this worked, this initialization. What I noticed is that if you also put some function, then not necessarily it will work, but I didn't investigate too much. So let's open our file. Now we want to see this data online, so we have to use the call that is vd. Now we can give the ID that we give. So first was module, then it was tutorial provider, and then was the name of the instance, so of the class of the instance, and this tutorial parameter. You can always complete with tab, then we do enter, and notice that here will come the data stuff. Now we can open it. Of course, if you have to every time call it, you can put this on the configuration file of the scene, so in this case videotutorial.con, so that every time it will automatically be called. Now we open that, and as you can see, I can put it here. At the moment it's true. And as we look here, now we are considering robot 4 is always true. Now if we press here, we see that for so now robot 4 is false, but robot 5 it's true. Okay. Now if you look here, now it's a little bit too fast, we see that for robot 5 is true, and for robot 4 is 0, as it should be. I mean, what I said before, that it not every time work, it means that it doesn't work every time, but most of the time it works well. Yes, maybe what is also important, that is a small trick. As you see, it's quite difficult, as maybe you have noticed during the tutorial. Even if you change the configuration on the sim robot, it is not saved. So somehow, if now I open the color calibration and I put the color calibration here, now I close and I open, sometime it will stay at the same time, at the same place, sometime it will not. In this case it stay, but other time it doesn't stay at the same place. So what can I suggest that I see that it work is when you see that something doesn't stay at the same place, rather than go search for what you're looking for and open blah blah blah, you can just go here and open once more the same scene, and somehow you can save in this way the stuff better. So why does it work and so on, I have no idea about that, but usually, I mean, from my experience, it works quite well. So this conclude the explanation about the streamable class. What maybe I would like also to show you once more is that now we have this flag. What could be comfortable is to use it for the drawing, the size. That means that if we put here draw the 2 point that we in the previous tutorial draw, only if the flag is set to true. Now if you run it once more and we are going to select, so please notice that in this case this maybe is a complement of what I told about the drawing. If we if I call now the drawing, and if I call VD module tutorial and this one, right? So now I can look first to the world state and I see we have the 2 point. Then I could also go under this one and we see here that, as you can see now, we have these 2 points here and here. If now I put the flag on false, the point disappear. If I come back to true, they will appear. Okay, and this makes sense. The problem is that if we initialize this flag to false, right? Now what will happen? It will happen that maybe I would personally thought, yeah, it should work once more. But now have a look. If I try now to, here in the console, that is where we get the output, there is nothing written. If I try now to call it, this draw central dot, we get that syntax error. This means that I don't know what is your command. Now let's try to give us this flag and we put this flag to true. And this should mean that now is able the framework to see the declaration of the drawing. But if we come back here, so now we delete here, we come back here and we try to say, okay, draw please this stuff. As you can see, we get, however, this syntax error because, as explained in the debug drawing video, either you have the declaration from the beginning or else it will not work. This concludes this tutorial on streamable classes. Thank you for your attention.